Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're talking about some algebra review, not so much something that is a central part of geometry, but kind of a review, some things that you need to know. So we're going to talk about simplifying radicals, or in other words, as you probably are familiar with them, square roots. We're going to simplify some square roots. So starting with number one. The square root of 150 does not give us a whole number because 150 is not a perfect square. So you get some kind of decimal answer like 12.24 blah 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 blah. But we don't really care about the blah 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 part because we want exact answers. Since this is an irrational decimal that goes on forever, we'd have to round it. Rounding is horrible because we no longer have exact answers. So let's find a way where we can simplify this and still keep an exact answer. So if we have the square root of 150, let's make a factor tree and start splitting this up into factors of 150. We know that 15 times 10 is 150. You could also use 50 and 3 or 30 and 5. Any two factors you choose is fine. You'll end up with the same answer. I can continue to break up these terms. I can break up 15 into 5 and 3. I can break up 10 into 5 and 2. I can't keep going. I can't break up 5. It's a horrible looking 5. My apologies. I can't break up 3, I can't break up 2 because all these are prime numbers. So from this point, now that my factor tree has gone as far as it can go, I can start grouping things together. I have two 5s. So when you have a couple, or two numbers that are the same, couples stay together. So we keep these 5s together, and we turn root 5 and root 5 into whole number 5 and keep it outside our square root. Meanwhile, leaving the leftover guys, the single people, inside. So the single people stay inside, and the couples are staying outside. And then 3 times 2 is 6, so our reduced answer is 5 root 6. That's our simplified form of the square root of 150. You make your factor tree, find your couples, and keep them outside. Keep your singles inside. Let's try number 2. So factors of 90, I have the square root of 9 and the square root of 10. Well, 9 I can break up into 3s. 10 I can break up into 5 and 2, none of which can be simplified any farther. So I have a couple, I have two 3s. So my 3s remain on the outside as 3, and on the inside I have a 5 and a 2. My answer is 3 root 10. Let's look down at 60. I can break this up into 12 and 5, 6 and 10, 30 and 2. I think I'll just use 30 and 2. Any of those choices will work. And then 30 I can break apart into 6 and 5. And 6 I can break apart into 3 and 2. So here I have a couple. I have this 3 up here that I didn't split off. And this 2 I didn't split off, and this 2. So I have a couple. I have a 2. And I have some leftovers, a 3 and a 5. So those I'll keep inside. So that becomes 2 root 15. So these are simplified versions of radicals without resorting to using rounded decimals. These are still exact answers, and our numbers are much smaller. So again, couples stay together, and you place it outside as one single number, and then your leftovers, your singles, you keep inside and simplify it. Let's do some more examples that are perhaps a bit larger. Let's do these 3, and then we'll call it a day. So 200 I can split up. I have a lot of choices. I have 25 and 8, just like how 8 quarters make up $2. I have 4 50s, I have 2 100s. I think I'll choose 2 100s. I can break up 100. I can break it up into 50 and 2, 25 and 4, 10 and 10. But I'm going to show you a really quick shortcut. You could break this up into 10 and 10, and then break these up into 5 and 2, 5 and 2. Then you have 2 5s and 2 2s. So those are our couples. Then you have a leftover 2 inside, so you have 10 root 2, and ta-da, there's your answer. But there's a much quicker way to do this, instead of doing a long way to get 10 root 2. I know that 100 is a perfect square, so the square root of 100 is 10. So this is just 10, and this is root 2. Bam! Shortcut. If you don't like it, that's okay. You can still do a factor tree, but I think it's a much easier way to go about this. Likewise, if one of the ones we did earlier, let's say we had the square root of 60. I could have said this is square root of 4 times the square root of 15, and the square root of 4 is 2. So it's 2 root 15, ta-da, I'm done. A nice short way to do it. Again, if you're comfortable with factor trees but not this, you can still resort to your factor tree. Otherwise, you can make this a lot easier on yourself and just pick the largest perfect square you know that goes into 60. The largest perfect square you know that goes into 200. And if we talked about it in your class, you might be familiar with it. Otherwise, stick with your factor trees if we didn't talk about it in your class. For number 5, 2 root 40, well, we have a 2 in the front to begin with. So let's just leave it there for now. We'll deal with it later. And 40, I can break this up into the square root of 8 times the square root of 5. I can't break up 5. I don't break up whole numbers, but I have the square root of 8 I can break up. So this is 2. I can break this up into the square root of 4, square root of 2, and then I have my square root of 5 here still. I can break up 4 into a couple 2's. So 2, root 2, root 2. I still have a root 2 here and a root 5 here. I have my whole number in front. I have a couple of 2's, so that becomes another 2 out in front. And I have a 2 and a 5 left over. So again, my couples gave me a 2. Then I had a 2 to begin with that I leave there. So this becomes 4 root 10. And the last one, 3 root 18. Leave my whole number in front. This I can break apart into, let's say, the square root of 6 and the square root of 3. And this can break up into the square root of 2 and the square root of 3. So I have a 3 whole number. I have a couple of 2's, so I have another, I have a couple of 3's, so I have a 3. And then I have a leftover 2 with no partner. He doesn't have a buddy, so I'll leave it as 2. And this is 9 root 2. This is something you should have covered in Algebra 1, which is why I'm not going into a great depth of detail. If you have any questions, feel free to come and see me before or after school. Or there's a nice website you can go to called KhanAcademy.org. There's a link under links on your Edline page. And they have great tutoring videos if you just look for simplifying radicals. Otherwise, have a great day.